I So a little less than a year ago, I was in an environment where I was constantly going out to the clubs, the bars, every single weekend. It was the college life, and I just thought that was the normal thing to do. So one weekend, my long distance girlfriend came to visit me. And, I was excited to show her my new friend group that I had, the bars, the weekend experience that I get in college. I was excited to show all of her that because before that, we were just FaceTiming, talking about it, texting about it. And, she was excited to see it as well. So the night that she came to visit and actually went out with me to the bar, that was a night that I drank way too much and I completely blacked out. Like I was at the club and I had to get escorted out because one, I threw up everywhere, which I don't remember, but it happened and I got escorted out of the club. So that was a point in my life where I really hit a low. And the next morning I wake up and she's just crying. It was an embarrassing thing. And I put that on her because I hit that low of a point in my life. And it took an experience like that to make me realize I needed to take a change. And it's not just that one thing that happened, but constantly it's everything that compounded up to that point. Before that, I was drinking every single weekend. I was going out. I was staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, going to a pizza place and just stuffing my face with empty carbs right before I'm about to go to sleep. And that was after I drank so much alcohol. And I was just destroying my body, destroying my mental state. And I didn't realize how crucial this time period was for me to building the man that I would ultimately become. So in all, I give you this little preface of a story to show you this was the low point in my life that I had to go through to persevere and persist to get to a better spot in my life where I got a physique that I actually like. I'm not skinny fat anymore. I'm not completely overweight. I'm not going to the bars, clubs. I don't have an environment around me that is just bringing me down and keeping me down mentally because I knew I was destined for so much more in this life. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And I didn't realize I had to push myself through the hard things that might have meant taking a risk like dropping out of college, which it hasn't paid out in anyone else's eyes yet. To me, I could not even imagine going back to school because I've seen the learning environment there. But when I'm on my own, I get to reinvest back into myself with things like books, with information that we have access to through our phones. And stuff like this, which I spent the last year just working on myself, building this mindset and being the most disciplined man that I can. And again, this was a little preface going into this video saying that consistency and persistence is what made me a disciplined man, is what got me to the results that I have right now and ultimately what I will accomplish in the future. And it's the mindset that I had to reinvest into constantly that is going to carry me and persist through anything I choose in this life. So going back to that little timeline, I went to that low point of my life. I got escorted out the club and woke up with my girl right by my side crying the next morning. And from that point on, we were going into winter break and I came into the next semester just completely changed. I started to reinvest back into myself. Instead of going out every single weekend, I started to slow down a little bit. I didn't completely cut out my life yet because the environment plays such an influence on my actions and my behaviors, like social pressure from my friends. But I had to slow down on the bad habits that compounded to take me to that low point in my life. And what I did from there is the complete opposite. I started doing good habits that reinvested back into me. And the biggest thing that I changed was putting in simple habits and simple processes in my daily life that meant nothing at the time. I would read 5-10 minutes in my day and I'd still wake up the next day. My bank account was still at negative $87. So it was the compounding of that day after day after day, not missing a single day and asking myself, how can I make the most out of my time? And when I'm sitting alone by myself, like I actually reflect on my thoughts rather than try to consume my time with scrolling on TikTok because I used to be like that too. I used to constantly scroll on TikTok. I'm talking about nights that I'd spend till 3 a.m. scrolling, just doom scrolling on my phone and TikToking myself to sleep. That's not how I wanted my life to be. I knew there was so much more in this life, and it wasn't going to get achieved just by me sitting back and thinking about it. I had to take action. I had to push myself through some hard decisions to get there. I started doing something called the 5-4-5 method. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I'll talk about this a lot. It is 5 goals that I'm actively working towards. It is a 4-step simple morning routine that reflects on those goals. And it's 5 actionable tasks that I do every single solitary day without fail that move me closer to the macro goal. Because I started to notice something. I would set goals for myself, like I want a BMW M8. That's a dream car that I have. That's a car that I have on my list of things I want. And I would constantly start to visualize it and keep thinking like, I'm going to get this BMW M8. I'm going to get it. Visualize it. Visualize myself driving it. I would smell the interior of the leather, the new leather. And I would keep doing that because that's what I heard online. You have to visualize it. But I didn't realize that I had to actually take the actions. And it's those actions, the auto-suggestion that I take in my daily life that are influenced on my subconscious thoughts. My subconscious thoughts were thinking about that M8, and my actions were auto-suggested by my desires. And those desires are deeply enrooted in my subconscious mind right now because I spent that time thinking about it constantly, visualizing it, meditating on it. And every single thing that I'm doing right now is moving me closer to it, no matter what I do, because I ask myself, every action I take, is this a vote towards the man that I want to become? Because if I pick up my phone right now, scrolling on TikTok isn't going to be contributing to the man that I want to become in the future. It's not going to help me get that dream car. But if I'm intentional about my phones, if I say, okay, I want to use this phone for a money move, a business move, a reinvestment back into myself, learning something, watching a podcast, watching a YouTube video, because that's the greatest things that I can do is continue to reinvest back into my mindset. And what I did was constantly just ask myself, how can I better use my time? I started taking risks. I started pushing boundaries because hard work is not hard work unless you get anxiety about it, unless you're anxious about it, unless you get stressed out like hell about it. You can work as many hours as you want, but it's not real hard work unless you're pushing yourself to discomfort. And I was being real with myself. How often do I actually push myself to discomfort? And the real answer is none of the stuff I was doing in my daily life back then was really pushing myself to discomfort. Like I've had 9-to-5 jobs. I've worked in a meal prep restaurant where I would spend hours upon hours putting together other people's meals. I would spend hours weighing out 8 ounces of ground beef, rice, thousands of meals in a day. That's no exaggeration. And at the end of the day, I would work 8-10 hours. My back would be hurting like shit. And I'm like, damn, I worked hard today. But my perspective right now, was that really hard work? I mean, yeah, it stressed me out because like the management was kind of shit, but does that reflect on who I'm going to become as a person in the future? No. Do I get anxious about the shifts I'm going to do? No, because it's so repetitive. So I started being curious and asking myself questions like that. And just by doing that over and over again, you don't see it in the micro. Day to day, you're not going to see a complete change in your life just asking yourself, am I actually working hard when I'm doing my morning routine? But when you do it in the macro, over a month, you ask yourself, what am I doing to work harder? How can I contribute to a better man, a better version of myself? You start seeing real progress. I like to do tasks in the micro perspective. So everything I do is small wins that add up to my macro goal. And I look from a macro perspective. I look from a bird's eye view at my progress. Because day after day, you're not going to see things add up. If you start going to the gym, if you start counting your calories and trying to lose weight, you're not going to see it on the scale immediately. If you look at your progress, your weight from January 1st to January 31st, you're going to see a difference because that you give yourself enough time. And that's just a month. That is just a month. If you look at it from a year perspective, you're like, holy shit, I lost 15 pounds over the course of a year. That's not just 15 pounds of just fat. You're putting on muscle too. Because I've been able to lose, I was skinny fat. My physique was completely skinny fat. I was overweight when I was back in college in that original story I gave y'all. And I got a good physique now. Like I built muscle while losing fat as well. And that's in the macro perspective. When I initially started off on my journey, when I initially started losing weight, it'd be like half a pound a week, maybe 0.2 a pound a week. And I was like, fuck, this isn't working. I just stayed with it. I changed my perspective. I look at the macro perspective and I just stayed on it. I stayed consistent. I kept using that 5-4-5 method every single day without fail. It's not a singular thing that kept me down. It's not a singular thing that pushed me forward. It is compounded events over and over and over again. The boring work no one wants to do. The reason why you're overweight isn't the fact that you're not going to the gym enough. It's the fact that you aren't counting your calories. You're not hitting your protein intake. You are not making sure you're in a deficit of calories. Because if you actually cared about losing weight in the gym, you're gonna count your calories. You're gonna count your macros. You're gonna do the boring work, the work no one else wants to do. That's the switch I made within myself to actually get a physique that I wanted. So everything that I was doing just compounded over a year, and looking at the man I was a year ago, I don't even recognize him. Macro perspective. And boys, I know I rambled a lot in this video, and honestly, I wanted to talk about consistency and persistence in this video. And if you can kind of see the message that I'm trying to convey in this video about me not giving up, me continuing to stay persistent even though I didn't see results first off from my weight loss journey or switching up my whole mindset and whole lifestyle, you can see that I stayed consistent. I stayed persistent with it as well. You get the message of the video. You get what it takes to be successful. Now you just got to apply it. You got to do that in your own life. So if you stay with me in this video to this point right now, I appreciate you for watching this far, and I would really love if you could stay with me on this journey. Subscribe to my channel and check out the rest of my content for stuff like this, because I constantly want to give back to people in other positions than me. I wish I had someone talking to me at a younger age telling me the right stuff to do, because I thought it was some magical switch that I was going to make that would get me a six-pack abs. I didn't realize it was persistence. I didn't realize how much failure I had to go through to get to the point I'm at right now, and ultimately the point I will end up in the future at. So again, boys, if you like this video, I ask that you join me on this journey and subscribe to my channel. And other than that, I will speak to y'all boys later.